So let's share with you a new technique, a new idea, and the easiest way to swing your driver. So when I say new, this has all happened for years, but the messaging changes and I see people still getting a little bit lost with these ideas, making their drivers just way harder to hit straight. So the first concept is talking about wrist set, setting your wrists on the backswing, how to, when to, these kind of perspectives. So one of the biggest faults I see on the backswing for golfers, certainly when they're people who are struggling to hit their driver, is actually setting lots of wrist on the way back, trying to achieve really quite extreme angles, actually physically trying to put wrist hinges in. And the trouble with that is what we tend to see with people who tend to try and add hinging of the wrist is they just basically add extension to the wrist to allow the club to come up. Meaning as many golfers start the swing, their wrist starts extended. This would be neutral, flexion, so this could be, think of this as bowed, cupped, so extended, flexion. And if you've got any kind of neutral grip, you'll be extended in that lead wrist. And as good players make their backswing, they actually start to take that extension out, most of them. So they actually start to take a wrist angle out, whereby trying to add wrist hinge, to cock the wrist, to hinge the wrist, all terms, people end up extending that wrist to do that. And if you extend your wrist and your other matchups aren't in place, which they aren't for most golfers, this is when we start to see really poor club face control. So the club face starts to turn open as they extend their wrist, so adding more loft. And then at the top of the backswing, there's one direction they can go. They've got to swing down and left to try and manage that face. So for lots of golfers, putting wrist hinges in actually complicates the issue and makes other matchups, poor ones, need to happen. We want to simplify this backswing and actually feel like you're trying to reduce certain wrist hinges, and the other ones will be relatively natural because the amount you can actually hinge your wrist up is really small. Golfers think they have to really hinge their wrists up. You don't, and for most of you, it's going to happen. So the way to do that is I want you to start thinking of lead shoulder. So for me, my left shoulder down through lead arm to the club and linking them all up. Easiest way to do that, just hold with your lead hand slightly down the handle. So I'm near the bottom of the grip. It just makes the club more manageable. And I'm going to try and get this club over right shoulder, lead hand over right shoulder as my shoulders turn, with my shoulder, lead arm and club just linking them all up. And what you're going to find is you have a much more extended backswing. You're also going to find that you don't feel like you need to use your wrist. If you can try and flatten your lead wrist as you do it, great. If you start trying to extend, maybe even add wrist cock, wrist hinge, you're going to find that this lead wrist has to really extend, and the club face orientation is just going to start encouraging you to hit big left to right curvatures. Other way you can do this is think about this button, this excess out here. Try and feel like it's pointing down towards the target. Then as you start the point back, keep it pointing out in front of you. Don't try and get it pointing, say, down at the ground. This is going to allow you to get your shoulders turn happening more, so you can see how long it takes with this club to get kind of, if there was a line coming from here, ahead or level with the ball. It's not till about here that my club starts pointing at the ball. Lots of amateurs, you know, they're kind of just straight away getting this club pointing down inside of the ball. Link lead shoulder, arm and club up. With some demo backswings, you're going to have a much more connected backswing with the face. A more connected backswing with the face is going to allow you to hopefully hit a few more targets. And guess what? A better connection with the face encourages a better launch, because by adding wrist angle, extending wrist, turning face this way, that adds loft to the club. Adding loft is going to reduce your distance through higher, weaker shots. Now the next idea is quite challenging for lots of golfers, but this is based on measured facts. Don't worry about what the comment section gets lost in with these ideas. The next idea is I want you actually to try and then reduce the angle on the way down even more. So once you've gone for a backswing which has a much more neutral feeling of wrist, just a little bit of understanding extension and neutral and flexion, trying to take that extension out, where you're linking up that shoulder down the downswing, I want you to feel whatever angle has been put in naturally through this movement, to think about trying to get it out quickly, trying to get that club down to the ground early. The lower I can get that club early, the more chance I've got of hitting level or even up at this ball. Trying to get your club to hit the ball slightly passing up is great for maximising distance. So many of you are hitting down and left, which just leaks and shreds and rips distance away from golfers. So another way of thinking about this is I don't want you to feel like you're holding on to angles. This is a killer move for so many golfers. We need to get the club low to the ground, handle down by right 5 for handle then to come up and through. And the easiest way to do that is actually to try and feel that you push the club more this way on the downswing. So as you start your downswing, rather than pulling it down and towards you, I want you to feel like you're pulling the club almost through your trail hand, if you hold it here, this way, to let that club get down early. And at the same idea, don't be afraid to let those wrists unhinge in a way where you're trying to get the lead hand to come more down to the ground. When you hit the golf ball, your wrist is going to move into this position. So think about that. If I stand here and my wrist is level with my lead arm, I'm not hinging up as I hit the ball, I'm actually hinging down when I hit the golf ball. You take that angle out on the way back, that angle disappears. You need to be able to get that angle back in, and you need to be able to try and feel like you're throwing the club more this way and the club down to try and get the club bottoming, lowering down here to hit up. So many amateurs are just holding angles with extension, which encourages these, again, horrible crashes down and to the left. Another great drill for this, just hold with trail hand down the handle. We're doing a reverse almost of the backswing, and from the top of your backswing, your one-armed backswing, I want you just with your lead hand to grab the club and feel like you're pulling it the other way to your right hand, your trail, trying to get that club down and then through. Now look, people will go now in the comments, it's so predictable, oh, but that's casting. It's not. The reason people see these angles at impact, what is referred to as casting, is purely and nearly 100% related to loft. Nothing's 100% because humans are messy. It's related to loft. It is not related to people trying to get angles out or put them in. It's not anything to do with that. It's to do with the people add loft, point the face home to a path, and then the handle has to come back to balance that loft up. It's loft, that's all it is, loft. Remember, the backswing is sorting that out with your wrist angles. Also, the same idea applies as the backswing to the downswing. The more people hold on to angles has the reverse effect. It cups that lead wrist, extends it, which adds loft, which then encourages these kind of impacts. So the actual hanging on to the angles is what creates these. From so many golfers, getting them to get these angles out early allows them to line things up, getting these more pro-like impacts and just gain distances without having to swing any faster. I know it's counterintuitive and it's often what not's been taught, but don't worry about that. There's so much bad info out there. Also, it's not what you understand as happening, and that's fine. That's the challenge that you need to go and measure and play. Remember, this is measured ideas and facts. This isn't just, I think you should do this. This is based on people improving their golf using these ideas. Now, the next one, really, really common. You need to stop turning your shoulders. Yep. You heard me. One of the most common swing faults we see with amateurs, and it relates to these first 2 points, is as they come through and they're hitting the ball, they are rotating their shoulders, turning their shoulders. This drags the club down and left. They're very flat with their shoulders on the way through. What we see from world-class players is we see a massive difference in the tilt of their shoulder, right shoulder, so trail lower than lead, my left. They are coming through more this way, not this way. It's just huge, and you see it time and time again. So let's get those shoulders coming through more in a way that will push that path out towards your target on a better path to sending the ball with less curvature. And the way I want you to do that is I want you to feel like you're hitting the ball with your trail shoulder. So just take the club in your trail hand, down the grip, again, just so I've got it down the parallel with my feet line and parallel-ish to the ground. Trail shoulder, I'm just going to hold on to it here. I'm going to try and feel like I pull it down towards that ball, sending that club down towards the ball. Look what happens to the handle. It comes up, remember, I come up through lead side because I'm going to try and extend through lead side to get this up, to help this go down. And then as I go through, I'm going to try and keep this shoulder under my chin as it passes, not the collision course with the chin and then the up and through this way. That is so weak, it creates awful impacts and it's killing people's drives. Like, it's absolutely destroying drives. I see it time and time again on the course, on the lesson tee. It's just constant. Now with the other two drills, they're more that you would do them in a practice swing or at the range. You know, you're not going to hit a shot like this on the range. You're not going to hit shots like this on the course. You're going to get those feeling in, but this feeling of trail shoulder down you can use on the course. If I hit a shot here, even when I finish, it's slightly exaggerated. I'm going to feel like my trail shoulder is lower as I come through. So many of you are finishing out this way, really trying to get trail shoulder down and hit the ball down under that chin and through. It's going to help you smash your driver and absolutely gain distance through better hits and better deliveries. Because guess what? When we look at people's drivers, they're costing them shots, like loads of shots. If you want to find out where your driver's costing you shots, this video here will help you break 80 and understand why your driver's not allowing you to break 80.